Hey people, it's Niles talking. This is from bbc.co.uk. Affirmative action. US Supreme Court overturns race-based college admissions. The US Supreme Court has ruled that race can no longer be considered a factor in university admissions. The landmark ruling upends decades-old US policies on so-called affirmative action, also known as positive discrimination. It is one of the most contentious issues in US education. Affirmative action first made its way into policy in the 1960s and has been defended as a measure to increase diversity. US President Joe Biden said he strongly disagreed with Thursday's much-anticipated decisions. "We cannot let this decision be the last word," he said. "Discrimination still exists in America." This is not a normal court, he added, of the 9 justices who are ideologically split between 6 conservatives and 3 liberals. Education Secretary Miguel Cardona told BBC News that the court took away a very important tool that university leaders use to ensure diversity on campus. However, what it didn't take away is the intent to ensure that our colleges are made up of beautifully diverse students, much like our country is. He continued, adding that the White House will issue guidance to universities with instructions on how to legally maintain diversity. The ruling covered 2 cases involving admissions at Harvard and the University of North Carolina, UNC. The court ruled 6-3 against UNC and 6-2 against Harvard. The justices sided with an organization called Students for Fair Admissions, founded by legal activist Edward Bloom. The group argued before the court last October that Harvard's race-conscious admissions policy violated the Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which bars discrimination based on race, color, or national origin. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote, "Many universities have for too long wrongly concluded that the touchstone of an individual's identity is not challenges, vested skills built, or lessons learned, but the color of their skin." His majority opinion said UNC and Harvard's policies were well-intentioned, and the decision noted that universities should not be prohibited from considering an applicant's discussion of how race affects his or her life. But Justice Roberts wrote, "Harvard's admissions process rests on the pernicious stereotype that a black student can usually bring something that a white person cannot offer." What? I've never heard this stereotype. What are they talking about? Justice Clarence Thomas, the nation's second black justice and a conservative who has long called for an end to affirmative action, agreed. He wrote that such programs were patently unconstitutional. Universities' self-proclaimed righteousness does not afford them license to discriminate on the basis of race, he said. Among the liberal justices who dissented was Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first black woman appointed to the court. She said the decision was truly a tragedy for us all. With "let them eat cake" obliviousness today, the majority pulled the ripcord and announced color blindness for all by legal fiat, she wrote. I've posted about her as well, and she, in her legal career before the Supreme Court, ruled against giving compensation to victims of a white mass shooter who had targeted black victims. So, she's completely a hypocrite. She's just changing, we need to side with race and social activism now that she's on the Supreme Court. In her previous career, she had fought to stop black victims getting justice. Let's keep going. Dissenting liberal Justice Sonia Sotomayor said the ruling cements a superficial rule of colorblindness as a constitutional principle in an endemically segregated society. But Justice Roberts argued the dissenting justices had ignored parts of the law that they did not like. Most troubling of all is what the dissent must make these admissions to defend: a judiciary that picks winners and losers based on the color of their skin. Mr. Blum said the founders of Students for Fair Admission celebrated his group's success in the blockbuster ruling. He called it the beginning of the restoration of the colorblind legal covenant that binds together our multiracial, multi-ethnic nation. These discriminatory admission practices undermine the integrity of our country's civil rights laws, he said. Yu Kong Zhao, president of the Asian American Coalition for Education, told the BBC he welcomed the ruling. His group argued that affirmative action had negatively affected Asian American students' odds of enrollment at elite schools. This decision will preserve meritocracy, which is the bedrock of the American dream, Mr. Zhao said outside the court. Others criticized the ruling. Angie Gabao, the president of the Harvard Black Students Association, told the BBC she was very discouraged by the decision. Miss Gabal, who is 21 and entering her final year at Harvard, says she believes her race 100% played a factor in my application, including through an application essay. She worries that students are affected by their race in the country will now feel obligated to trauma dump in their applications to show how race is affecting their lives. In a statement, Harvard President Lawrence Bacow said that while the Ivy League college will certainly comply with the court's decision, it will continue to incorporate people of many backgrounds, perspectives, and lived experiences. UNC Chancellor Kevin Guskiewicz said that while it is not the outcome that the university hoped for, it will review the decision and take any necessary steps to comply with the law. Former US President Donald Trump, the current Republican frontrunner for next year's election, hailed the decision as a great day. Americans of extraordinary ability and everything else necessary for success are finally being rewarded, he said on social media. The Supreme Court has twice backed affirmative action programs at U.S. universities, most recently in 2016. 9 U.S. states have already have bans on race-based college admissions in place: Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, Oklahoma, New Hampshire, Michigan, Nebraska, and Washington. In California, voters rejected a 2020 ballot measure to bring back affirmative action 24 years after it was banned. The conservative-dominated Supreme Court enraged many U.S. liberals last year when it voted to overturn Roe v. Wade, a 1973 ruling that granted women abortion rights. Several more recent rulings, however, have been cheered by the political left, including one on Native American child welfare and 3 others on election laws in Alabama, Louisiana, and North Carolina. Now, I want to talk about things that are not mentioned in this article. Now, if you followed people like Professor Black Truth or many others, it's been talked about that the people who are most beneficiaries, who are the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action are white women, because they are technically a minority and they can be put in and therefore claim that. And the fact is that it's been talked about a lot that despite all these things like going to college, there's still plenty of discrimination. You go to college and then the employers will then say, well, you now have a college degree, but you don't have this. I remember a post being posted that once we all started getting college degrees, they then said, now you need a master's degree. Because now that black students had a master's degree, a college degree, they said they just simply created another barrier to keep them out. I said on Sean James's channel when he was, not yet posted, he's still in the waiting list at this moment, but I said, Sean James is proof of it. Despite being a very educated and capable black man, he still struggles to get a job because they simply create imaginary barriers or criteria that you can't meet or have to meet. You need X amount of experience. So there's a hilarious meme that you are 18 years old applying for a job and you need 10 years experience to get a job as a sales assistant at Walmart. But anyway, to keep going, I lost my train of thought, but I'll come back to that. But one of these things is maybe this will be an impetus to move forward, because I've said time and time again, people keep talking about we need proper education, our black children aren't being educated properly, and I keep saying sending them to these white schools where they teach them lies is not helping. It's basically, why won't they teach them the truth? Why is the white man going to tell you that he's the most evil man in the world and all the things that he's ever done throughout history in the school that he runs? It's just stupid. And they're going to all these colleges and you've got all these students who come out and can't fix anything. You've got so many of these educated people who can't understand white supremacy or how the system works. It's like that quote from Paul Mooney, who once said, making fun of these educated black people, he said, I went to Yale. Well, you should have gone to jail and learned something. You go to all these high-class colleges and universities telling you all these things and brainwashing you and making you think that you're part of the system when you're not. It's like Khalid Muhammad once said, people keep talking about, I'm with the Republican Party, or I'm with the Democrat Party. Fool, you ain't even invited to the party. Maybe being excluded from these universities will put more impetus on black communities to start rebuilding black schools and black colleges to meet their needs and tell the truth. Because one of the things I've noticed is some of the most successful black men that I've come across have come out of Morehouse College. And that's a HBCU. And the thing is, people talk about how HBCUs don't get funding, like, either Trump or Biden had cut the funding. But the thing is, they don't get enough funding as it is. They have to take in more and more non-black students because there aren't enough black students. And on the other side, people complain, man, these universities are no longer becoming safe spaces for black people. Well, you don't go there. How can they be a safe space for black people when there isn't even enough going there to make the institution viable? So to be honest, I don't personally think in the greater scheme of things this will affect black people all overall, because they're going to these universities, they're getting these qualifications, and they're just being coming out and they're being told, well, I'm sorry, but this is not good enough. You need to have a higher criteria. There needs to be a return to the spirit of, Booker T. Washington and Marcus Garvey. We don't need them, we'll make our own way. Because I said in one of my previous videos, that people have not gone forward, they've gone backwards. Because from the 60s and 70s, there was the Black Power movement and this whole, to hell with you, we don't need you, we'll make our own way, to now, if we are not in a white institution, we are not moving forward. Why do you need to be part of a white institution? Why does their degree now somehow mean something? Why does just the fact that you were in Harvard and got a low degree now mean less than the fact that you went to, say, a HBCU or just a mainstream college and got an outstanding degree? Like I said, I've gone on long enough, but as I said, I don't think overall this is a big loss, because black people were not winning either in the admissions or in the end result. So anyway, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.